covering the entirety of Seacrest County's court case featuring Judge Turner. This case is Johnson v. Jackson regarding insider trader at XCOM Corporation, and Johnson, an at-risk investor. Let's get right into it.
Twelfth Court, Seacrest County is now in session. Gentlemen, if you'll please be seated.
My name is Jack Johnson, and I'm an investor who chose to invest the entirety of my 401k in XCOM. Because the stock was performing very well when I decided to invest, but a couple of months in, the stock sunk to zero and I lost the entirety of my savings. I did the due diligence that I felt I had to do in order to purchase the stock. I spoke to a broker who advised me that it would be a good idea to purchase the stock. He spoke about the past performance of the stock, and it was exemplary, which led me to believe that it was a safe investment with adequate returns. After the stock crashed, I did my research and found out that an insider trading scandal had something to do with it. The research that I did said that the company had been cooking their books and retaining earnings to make it seem like the company was succeeding when in reality it was not. And thus, investors were given false information about what to invest in, so therefore, I feel like I should not be held responsible for the unethical behavior of the company. So my question to the defendant is, how were you able to sell your stock right before the company crashed and save all of your money, while I, among other investors, were stuck with a losing investment?
My name is John Jackson, and as CFO of XCOM, I was responsible for all financials incoming and outgoing. I do not believe that the actions of my company were illegal whatsoever, thus us being here today is of no need. Our corporate team was working on the annual report when outside pressures affected the performance of our CEO. He then pressured his financial team to do what you would call retaining earnings, but we refer to it in the industry as providing a positive outlook on the future of the company. During the summer, the overall performance of the company took a hit, so much so that the company could have gone bankrupt right then and there. Because of this, the financial team took it upon themselves to arrange sales and expenses according to GAAP policies to allow for a great show of net earnings. A couple months down the road, an investigation was conducted and found our financial team responsible for these retaining earnings. The negative media attention impacted the stock performance so much so that it resulted in sinking almost to zero. For this reason, I wholeheartedly believe that I am in no form liable for the loss towards any of XCOM's investors.
Now, why do you believe that you are not responsible for the loss of your investors if the whole function of a public corporation is to put its stockholders in a favorable position?
Your Honor, that is exactly what we did. We arranged our earnings and expenses to GAAP policies to present our company in a favorable light to our shareholders. If you look at the history of our company, our stock has performed, just as the plaintiff had mentioned earlier, exemplary. This situation would not have happened if it were not for the adverse media attention. The media has been known to make claims without full information, and that is exactly what they did here. They did not consult our side of this situation before publishing articles about it.
Now, you're pushing the blame onto the media. Let us stick to the case at hand. The media is not sitting in your seat, and they are not on trial, sir. It is you who is on trial. Do you have any words, Mr. Johnson?
It's just like you corporate types, to push the blame on someone else. Does it never occur to you that there are more people working in the corporation than just the executive team? Investors and employees alike depend on the success of the company. The employees look to you to make strategic moves that will further the company along and sustain the business. Your actions have reduced the lifespan of the company and its employees, and thus thousands of employees are out there unemployed looking for jobs. As investors, we have lost anywhere from our investment accounts to our entire life savings. I happen to be the one on the side of the entire life savings.
You make some very valid points. Please continue.
Your Honor, I am not just here before you today for myself, but also for others who invested in XCOM. If I were to fudge the numbers on my taxes, I would be audited by the IRS and be held accountable. So why does the defendant think that XCOM is not liable for the false representations on their balance sheets?
That is a great question. What do you have to say to that, Mr. Jackson?
The cult of consistent earnings imposes opportunity costs. There is a need to constantly work on earnings per share expectations that cannot be disappointed by even a penny. Since a management's inability to come up with a measly cent when so many opportunities to manipulate the earnings exist, which often will be interpreted as a stark sign of failure, which gives any reason for investors to bomb the stock. One of my jobs, like you stated earlier, Judge Turner, is to keep investors happy, and that is exactly what I was doing. Now, the market is a risky place, which leads me to ask why you were even investing in my company if you knew that you wouldn't get all the information that you might need. What do you have to say to that?
An at-risk investor is an investor who is unsophisticated about the functioning of the market and hence unappreciative of the degree of risk he or she faces. Well, one would presume that the market should be free and open so that everyone has an opportunity to better his or her position and enjoy the goods and services of society. With current SEC regulations, you would think that there would be no information asymmetry, but we couldn't be more wrong in this situation if we assumed that. You strayed away from the level playing field and leveraged your information that was not available to the public for your personal gain.
Insider trading is the trading of a public company's stock or other securities, such as bonds or stock options, by individuals with access to non-public information about that company.
Let's take a brief recess.
Were you involved in the Enron scandal? As a matter of fact, were you involved in any financial scandal where you feel that you had a lot of money, but now you have none of it? Well, if you feel like you've been in that situation, then there are so many different entities that can help you out. There are lawyers that we can help get those bad guys back, and there are financial and ethics teachers that can help you figure out what to do next time so that you won't be involved in a scandal where you lose all of your money. Think about that.
Fairness in financial markets is often expressed by a concept of a level playing field. A playing field may be unleveled because of inequalities in information, buying power, resources, processing ability, and special vulnerabilities. Unequal information or information asymmetry refers either to the fact that all parties to a transaction do not possess the same information or that they do not have the same access to information.
Look, this wasn't done to affect you or your family or your personal financial future. You know, I don't have it out to get you, and I didn't have it out to get you. Just like yourself, I was trying to better my investing account outcomes by selling my shares at the best possible time. Corporate pressures around me and my team forced us to arrange the numbers in the way we did, which were to GAAP standards. And when you get to the corporate level, it's a whole other ballgame that I don't think many people outside of the corporate level actually understand. So those are the reasons behind why I did what I did.
Well, because of this unlevel playing field, I lost all my money, my entire life savings, and now I'm out trying to find a job because I was looking to retire quite soon, and now I can't because I lost my entire life savings. So now I need to pick up 2 jobs just to maintain the standard of living that I'm already living in, or the living that I used to have, I should say, before I lost all my money because of you. And it didn't just affect me, it affected my entire family. I can't go back and see my kids now because I'll be working 2 jobs while you're sitting at home because you profited from this. But before we get to you, what about your employees? Your employees lost their jobs. You had thousands of those. You have thousands of employees that lost their jobs. And what are they going to do now? They're in the same job market that I'm trying to fight for a job for now. And we already know where the unemployment rate is, where the economy is. And you basically just made it worse for thousands of more people. These same people that work for you, that put in the work day in and day out, they now have to live with the fact that you sold them out for your own profit. You had that information asymmetry. That's basically what caused all this. You knew this was going to happen, but you didn't prevent it. And because of that, you created an unlevel playing field, and which resulted in us losing our jobs, all of our money, and basically going to a life of poverty, starting our life all over again, while you profited and you feel nothing from this situation.
Well, an example of what XCOM Financialist did is, say that a company wants to exit or close a factory in the future. Under GAAP, it must today, in what we will call year one, estimate the cost that it will eventually incur in the restructuring for severance payments, plants closing, and the like, and charge them off, even though many of the expenses won't actually be paid until, say, year 1 or 2. These charges, which end up in an account called liability and reserve, tend to put up craters in year 1's profits. But analysts generally agree to ignore the bottom line damage that these write-offs do, only focusing instead on operating earnings. In fact, all too often analysts cheer these charges, figuring that they will clear the decks for good results in the future. Basically, what takes place is a restructuring plan that overcompensates for the amount of capital it will require, which often allows excess to be channeled back into earnings in year 2 or 3. That is what my team did for XCOM.
Do you not feel bad at all for anything you've done?
Order in my court. You, sir, are out of line.
I don't feel like I've done anything wrong to you.
Order, order! Will you please sit down? Boy, that escalated quickly.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. So, just keep in mind, this is a fictitious situation that was modeled after the real-life Enron scandal. Enron was one of the world's major electricity, natural gas, communications, and pulp and paper companies, with claimed revenues of nearly $111 billion during the year 2000. At the end of 2001, it was revealed that its reported financial condition was sustained by an institutionalized, systematic, and large-scale accounting fraud. Enron's failure occurred after the revelation that much of its profits and revenues were the result of deals with special purpose entities, which means that many of its expenses and revenues were not recorded on the financial statements.
My verdict is this. Your company is held responsible for its actions, and you are held responsible for insider trading, which, in turn, your entire executive team is to blame. The team has rearranged the numbers, which resulted in the inflated financials. And you were able to sell your shares because you had the undisclosed information that the company was going to fail. That provided an unfair advantage to you because you were privy to the information, while Mr. Johnson, who, while he has done his fair share of due diligence, still would never have had the information that you had. That's the verdict.
So, how do you feel about the rulings?
I mean, it is what it is. I still don't feel like I did anything wrong, but the judge banged his gavel, and that's what I'm going to stick by. Are you satisfied with the judge's rulings?
I am definitely satisfied with the judging rulings. I think it wasn't a win just for me, but for everyone that was affected by this scandal. And I think it's going to teach a lesson for everyone to come.
Just keep in mind that we're going over fake scenarios, but this is stuff that happens in real life. You may encounter ethical dilemmas that you may or may not know how to handle, but just remember that if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong, period. Use your best judgment and consult experts if you feel the need. You may even feel pressured by internal or external forces that make the decision even harder. Someone once told me a story where a company ended the year with large financial excess. The CEO told the CFO, "Hey, let's hold some of that back." But the CFO replied, "Don't even go there." To which the CEO retorted, "You are in career-limiting territory." The CFO, knowing his ethical boundaries, got the company financial gurus together to convince the CEO that what he was doing was wrong. This just goes to show that at first, it may seem hard to make the right decisions, but in the end, that's just what they are. Right. Keep that in mind.
Your Honor, I am not just here before you today for myself, but also for others who invested.
Insider trading is the trading of stocks or bonds of a company.
So let's get into it. Really? The door is locked.
Wait, I need like a starting point.